Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we have the Qin K25. I'm going to start with the frequently asked questions of this device. As you know, this device is more of a smartphone, so not even a transition device, but I can still call it there. It's more of in the hybrid mode, it's small. It is a little bit on the sluggish for the performance, so we're going to talk about that in just a second. I highly recommend that if you're taking a look into this device and you like what it offers, that number one, you keep it in the case. When it comes to the hardware of the device, it's quite compact, very nice. The screen ratio is a little bit different than 16:9. So because of that, the screen ratio is going to get a little bit difficult to render certain pages. We're going to see that in just a second. But a few recommendations. Put a different launcher. The initial launcher is very sluggish. Very graphic intensive, even though it's the basic launcher from Android. So put something like Niagara launcher right here as I'm showcasing to you, something that is more simple on the interface. You can download pretty much any app that you want. You can go and download for the Play Store. I have installed the Aurora Store just because I prefer to download it that way. And you can look up, Spotify, WhatsApp, whatever it is that you want those utilities, you can have them. The more you load on the device, the slower it's going to be. So I do not recommend that you load more than maybe 5 to 10 applications on this device. It is not a powerhouse. It is not something that is going to fly through pretty much everything like the Jelly Star. So here we have the Jelly Star. It is about the same size, just a little bit thicker than the K25. But the Jelly Star is way faster and you can load way many more applications. So in that sense, I recommend the K25 because it's more limited. The Jelly Star is actually quite capable, and I have, used it back and forth as my work device. Nowadays, I don't use it as my work device because I found the minimal phone with the e-ink screen to be way more boring, and I don't use it as often as I use the Jelly Star. So here I'm going to compare. So let's go to a browser, DuckDuckGo right here, and I think I load Brave here. So let's go to The Verge. So here it is. Kind of showcasing you how it looks. So whenever I try to scroll, and we're just going to do a scroll, as you see, the Jelly Star just flies through because it is better optimized for the screen ratio and the processor, and the RAM is just way larger on the Jelly Star. So whenever I come back, I have more to scroll. So this one renders a little bit less text. It just doesn't allow for everything to be rendered in a better manner. To a large degree, I prefer, if I were thinking about optimization, scrolling, if I were thinking about getting in fast and back, the Jelly Star will be better at that, but also will be worse when it comes to scrolling or maybe, watching reels or something like that. This one is definitely going to be way more inconvenient. And to that, I give it good points. But maybe is it too much inconvenience? There are some redeemable points about the device. Is quite light, quite nice in the hand. I actually prefer the screen ratio myself, but does it render well for applications like WhatsApp? Does it render well for applications like, as you see right here, it's not showcasing everything. I have to scroll and get around. So maybe some applications will not be able to be accessed, which is a good thing, but is that what you want it for? So you really need to think, like, do I really want a lot of inconvenience in my life? Okay, this device is great. Do I not want too much inconvenience? Maybe something like the Jelly Star because it is more or made for with the regular aspect ratio that most smartphones are, but it's just a way smaller screen. So let's talk about the camera. Let's talk about the camera and more basic performance. So battery life is pretty good, 2 to 3 days. Most of the time, you can probably extend it to 3 to 4 days if you are not using the device that much. The camera samples are adequate. I actually found them to be pretty similar to the ones on the Xiaomi Qin F25. So this is kind of like its cousin. So they were both released this year. But this one is definitely way faster. The processor, I don't know, it seems to me that it's pretty similar processing power and RAM, but the optimization on the software for the Xiaomi F25 is better than on the K25. So the camera is pretty similar, as you saw some of the samples right there. But you can still have access to, a lot of niceties. You can have a browser. You still have a lot of bloatware. So you have messages. And again, this is going to be preloaded with Google Messages. So you can use RCS if your carrier approves it and the device is approved. The device has the software and the app, but you also need the carrier to certify that this device is usable with RCS. And you can text, you can text. One of my main annoyances with the device is the keyboard. I highly recommend that you get a different keyboard. Most of the time, it just uses a lot of screen real estate, and you will not be able to essentially access the menu bar, or, if you're trying to get to something specific. Here, you can, of course, type hello. You can glide type, as you see right there. I'm just doing different things. You can do voice to text, which, again, it has all of the niceties of the smartphone. But whenever you're in a browser, for example, and you're trying to type something, let's say that we're looking for ESPN or something like that, you cannot scroll without the keyboard going back and forth. So again, a little bit more inconvenience, which is a good thing, but it just depends on, is it too much inconvenience for me? If you want to try it out, I definitely recommend it. But there may be other devices in the market that are better suited. A couple of points, again, with the Jelly Star. One thing that I do like about the Jelly Star is that it still retains the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack here at the top. It still has, the USB-C. So 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, USB-C. This one only has the USB-C, and it comes with an RI blaster, which may be useful for some people, but not too useful for a lot of people. So I would have preferred a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for this device. So if you're trying to invest about $200 of your money in a device and you're deciding, okay, I want a small smartphone, I want something that is inconvenient to use, but still has some of the niceties and features that I like or that I need for work, for life, for studies, for whatever it is, then you have the K25, you have the Jelly Star. Which one will I buy? I probably will buy the Jelly Star just because of that 3.5 millimeter headphone jack and better performance on, pretty much everything. But if you want more inconvenience and you want something that is a little bit more sluggish and that you have to tinker around, you may want to reduce the amount of play apps, so play games. Okay, I don't really need that. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to ADB. I'm going to disable the app. I'm going to completely eliminate it from the system if I know how to do that. YouTube Music, oh yeah, probably not. I'm going to also go and disable that so that the device runs smoothly with the apps that I actually need, like WhatsApp, like Calendar, like Messages, like Maps. You have that ability to use this device and to have, again, pretty much everything that you need. You're going to be able to search things, just a little bit more inconvenience than a full-fledged smartphone. Definitely more inconvenience even than the Jelly Star. So it just depends on how much inconvenience you want on this device and how you want to use it. Good recommendation, not a high recommendation for me, but I like it. I like that there are different form factors out there coming into the market. Maybe this is the beginning of small phones returning, and having more quirky or different designs, something that allows you to still retain a lot of functionality, maybe make it whichever way you want it to be, and have a good, decent performance. So, decent recommendation, not a full recommendation. And again, hopefully this video gave you some idea into what can be done. Again, some of the things are going to be more sluggish just because the aspect ratio is not meant, most of the apps are not meant for this device, and the aspect ratio messes things up, like scrolling, as you see right here. If you scroll on this side, it's a little bit better, but if you're trying to scroll, it's just a little bit of a worse experience for browser, for videos, for anything, essentially. If you have any questions about this specific device or any of the other devices that I have reviewed, make sure to put it in the comments below, and I'll be interacting with you guys. I hope you found this video insightful and a little bit of an intro to this device, a little bit of a small review. And again, we'll see you in the next video.